anything you'd put into a search engine,
Mm-hmm.
try asking to AI.
Mm.
The difference though is that think of AI as like you're talking to a person that is an
Mhm.
expert in something. So with a search engine, it used to be that you would search for something, you would get results, and you'd had to look through them. With AI, you would type your question, you would likely get answers with explanations. But the difference is you can actually at that point then ask follow-up questions.
Mhm.
You couldn't do that in a search engine really. All you could do is refine your search and try to get better outputs. With AI, you can now ask like all those clarification or follow-up
Yeah.
things. So truly, just think of it like talking to a person that's really smart in the topic that you're asking or want to ask questions about.
Are you trying to get your shift together?
Welcome to the Shift Sisters podcast, where real conversations inspire real transformations. We're not experts, but we're experiencers. I'm Sandra Sa.
And I'm Jennifer Richter.
We're your Shift Sisters.
Whether you're shifting like a sloth or it looks like you're having an exorcism, this is your space to breathe, reflect, and remember. We're here to talk shift with you. Welcome back, shifties. I'm your spicy shift sister and our graceful, poetic shift sister, Sandra Sa. We are graced with the presence of our grounded guy, Adam Richter. And today we have an interesting topic. It can create a lot of excitement, but it also can create a lot of anxiety. So we kind of want to talk about these things in our career shift series that's about AI and how it's reshaping the careers quietly, quickly, and across all stages of life. This affects, or in my opinion, in my household and in my planning, even as young as middle school.
Mm.
Because if you think about it, when you're in middle school, 5 years from now, you're graduating and society pushes you into that career industry after that. So what does it look like? How should we plan? And so today we're going to get into that a little bit and hope that Adam can give us some expert advice. And we're going to talk about his background and why he is equipped to chat with us about this. Today, Sandra, give me your vibe check. How you doing?
I just want a cocoon. When you get that
Okay.
feeling of just, I want to bury myself in like all the weighted blankets and like asleep and emerge out of is it the chrysalis?
Yes.
And just come out like a fresh new butterfly ready to spread her wings. Like I'm in that before stage right now. So I'm
Hmm.
feeling, mm, I don't know, like I just want to overload it, sure. But I just want to,
You need to retreat almost.
yes, I want to retreat into that space.
Well, keep in mind, because I know that you are fast paced and you don't have a lot of time for nonsense.
No.
Please remember to give yourself the grace because as you've walked this path with me, you saw me have a complete meltdown in 2024 where I said I felt like I am this caterpillar that
Yeah.
is in a chrysalis just turning to goo and disgustingness. But I know I want to sit with it. And I know that I want to be a part of the process because I can feel that it's transforming me and I want to be a part of it intentionally instead of, let it, you know, break me.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think I'm fighting my own resistance to that,
Yeah.
like you just said. So thanks for that reminder.
Mhm. Adam, what's your vibe check today?
Like usual, a lot of irons in the fire. So I feel like I'm
Hmm.
trying to prioritize which ones to go after.
Mhm.
On my list, I just keep adding things to it, and they're all super important. But yeah, just thinking about like, okay, in my free time, am I going to be trying to knock these things out and go after them, or am I going to be able to squeeze those into the stuff that I'm working on today? So yeah, so all the irons in the fire.
All right. Well, what are you doing to support yourself so that you can accomplish these things?
Oh, that difficult question to support myself. You
That's what we do, Adam. We try to
yes.
figure out the solutions and how.
The table stakes of supporting myself usually involve, at the very least, like getting good sleep, making sure that I'm eating and having good like hydration,
Yeah.
exercise to an extent. Like I'll balance that out. Like I do try to exercise every day, but if like I'm feeling worn down or I've got too much going on, I will maybe forego that some days as a trade off to not put extra stress on my body. Sunshine, there's a lot of cold at this particular time going on throughout the nation, but I try to at least get out in the sun, for a walk or even a part day break in the middle of the day to get some sunshine. So little things. Meditation's always another part of the stuff that I try to do to keep balance. So a lot of little tools, I guess.
Well, good. Well, we are cheering you on and hoping that everything comes out success for you.
Mhm.
My vibe check is I am like hopeful and jittery. And I don't know if it's because I'm on my second cup of a lot of espresso or what, but I just feel like I need it because it's warm and cozy and comforting, not because it actually does anything for me. I just enjoy it. And of course, you always have to pair a little cookie to go with it. But
Absolutely.
that's my vibe check. I'm a little jittery. It could be the espresso, but I'm
Yeah.
hopeful and I'm hoping that this conversation will really give us all a lot of hope to walk forward with.
Awesome.
Sandra, are you drinking anything delicious besides the black nectar of the gods like me?
No, well, I can't do that stuff, but I wanted to give myself something like a little zip, a little zing.
Okay.
So I made it and it was so beautiful this morning when I made it, but it looks like tomato juice, but it's not. It's turmeric, it's orange, it's orange, turmeric, lemon, and pomegranate juice. And the zippiness is from the citrus and all of that. And I'm feeling a bit inflamed. So I'm like, I need some turmeric in there and all of that. So it's copycat of a drink that I have at one of my favorite like cafes, and they do it way better than me. But I said, can I do this at home? So
Is it
pomegranate,
turmeric powder or turmeric juice?
girl, it's a turmeric shot. I bought these like
Yeah, I
turmeric
seen
shots.
those. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a turmeric shot in my drink as well to give me maybe some digestion as well. So all of the stuff. But it's definitely a fun like morning drink for me.
Well, that's perfect because I planted last year 3 types of turmeric. There's yellow turmeric, Thai turmeric, and black turmeric, which a lot of people don't know about black turmeric because it's very expensive to buy in the markets and things like that, but it has the highest like nutritional beneficial properties.
Mm,
And we were gifted with a few knuckles of each and we planted them and I had a huge harvest this year. And
amazing.
we took all of our ginger, excuse me, not ginger, all the turmeric of the different kinds, blended it up together and added like some aloe juice and apple juice and a little bit of pineapple juice. And then we put it in ice cube trays
Uh-huh.
so that they are those turmeric shots essentially. So you can just pop one out and either put it in a smoothie or, like in your case, you can
Yeah.
let it slowly dissolve into your drink or whatever. So I'm going to have to try that with I'll do like a cranberry or a cherry juice though. I love pomegranate, but it's on my allergy list. So
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
nice. I like the use. If talking about AI and what your career or education is going to look like from 5 years from now gives you a bit of anxiety, I'm going to encourage you to try some adaptive oil. Adaptive is one that Adam, I think, is pretty familiar with. You probably have the roller ball like this where you can just take it with you and put it on. And, when you're having those anxious feelings and you're slightly fearful and hopeless because of uncertain things, it could be life circumstances, it could be career changes. You need something, those supports, like what we're talking about, to help you get through the day. Like, is it going to make you feel like, who cares? Let's just, get wild and crazy? No, but it's going to help to calm you down just a little bit so that you can not necessarily let the emotions and the fear drive the bus. You can be a little bit more calm and directed. Let me
Mhm.
read you guys the emotional benefits of this oil. It is adaptive. No surprise, the oil of adaptability was formulated to assist with anxious states. It imparts reassurance and calm when one is caught in cycles of constriction, tension, worry, or uneasiness. When individuals have experienced prolonged stress or traumatic experiences, the mind body responds by becoming hypervigilant in order to protect them from future harm. This state is, I don't know how to say that, antithetical. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Anyways, to well being and positive functioning, adaptive helps individuals adapt to stressors and fear in more clear, constructive, and confident ways. Okay, I'm spelling this to you because I need to know what it is.
Oh, it was probably antithetical.
What is it?
Is it
Antithetical?
antithetical? Yeah,
What's
it's
that mean?
directly opposed or contrasted to. So, like, kinda like
Mm,
the opposite of.
Yeah.
antithetical. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to keep my vocabulary growing because I'm with my two vocabulary nerds.
Yeah, I was immediately trying to think of what it was in the
Me
background.
too. I was like
Yeah.
antithesis. Oh, but
Yeah.
it's it's yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that word in my life. So there we go. I'm today years old. Let me tell you really quick a little bit about Adam. I know we've had him on here a couple of times and we've mentioned that he's an IT guru and things like that, but he's a rounded guy. He is a FinOps and generative AI specialist with over 25 years of experience in IT cloud, efficiency, and AI strategy. He's a two-time speaker at AWS reInvent and has a deep expertise in helping organizations and individuals understand practicality in applying these emerging technologies, especially how AI influences work, productivity, and career evolution. So it's a mouthful, and I probably didn't do it justice. But in layman's speak, he's really great at taking all of these complex AI and technology developments and translating them to the layman's person so that they can feel confident in how to apply it. Like he's even teaching his own father, who is near retirement age, how to use AI for fishing.
Amazing.
Like how can it improve your fishing game? So that's his gift to the world. AI is definitely changing how these careers evolve though. And here at home, we're talking about how do we want to lead our own child's education? Because I don't necessarily want her to go through the traditional standard process and then come out 5 years later and have no use for what she learned because the whole world has asked us to adapt differently. So, Adam, when people hear AI and jobs and education and things like that, I feel, jump straight to fear mostly. But from your perspective, what's actually shifting or maybe even being exaggerated with this AI concept? And is it going to be like a replacement force or amplification tool for everyone?
Sure. Before I guess we get kind of too deep into this, one short disclaimer that, like, I'm probably going to express a lot of like views and opinions, but they're entirely my own. So this isn't like company
Mhm.
I work for's opinion or anything along those lines. This is just a topic that I'm very personally passionate about. Spend, I would say, at least an hour or two a day either consuming what the latest updates are in this space or using these tools like in my own life. So this is something that, yeah, I'm like really eager to get into and to share kind of my take on it because I'm definitely probably uniquely suited in that I'm in all versions of this space right now. But on the question you asked, I think there's kind of an element of both, right? Exaggeration and amplification. I think well, not so much exaggeration, but replacement and amplification. I think it's going to be both for the workforce for sure. This is a new technology. So, think no different than when internet or things like that, or even computers were created. It's going to change the trajectory of how we do things. Kind of a thought experiment that I like to do is, think about going back to the 80s and telling somebody, hey, there'll be airports, in the future where you can get on a plane and fly to a different location. Or there'll be a job where somebody can make a living on a podcast, sharing their views and opinions. That wouldn't even make sense to them because even the foundation of those things is not there, right? their mode of transportation is largely, still walking from place to place or getting on a horse. So some kind of mechanical technology to get to a new place doesn't even make sense. That's kind of the space that we're in with this like new technology that's being introduced is there's understandably a lot of being unsure of where it's going to go. And there's probably going to unfortunately be like some element of job impact or reprioritization or change. But similar to when we got new technologies like automobiles or airplanes, to also be entirely new industries where new jobs are created with this new technology. So like a lot of people similarly with like the whole like airplanes being introduced would have said like, oh, okay, well, we won't need cars anymore. We could just like fly anywhere. The reality of it is people still drive, across the nation. But now and then when planes were introduced, there was now airports and restaurants in those airports and people that service the airplanes and just this whole new industry of people working in things that didn't previously exist. Another, I guess, great kind of analogy I heard that was like even though we invented vehicles that can go faster than Usain Bolt, we still have like Olympic running. We still have people that exercise. So try to take some of these, I guess, balances in mind. So the second part of this is that I don't think this like major shift will be in the short term. I think it's going to be, at least in the short term, an amplification tool. I think it's things that we're going to be able to use to do things much better and faster. Much like when like the calculator was invented, right? When that happened, it didn't mean that we never had to do math again or that we don't have to understand how to do math, right? But it did mean that we could do math faster and that we could possibly spend more time focusing on complex math rather than just the easy parts of the calculation. And similar to this, think like roles. I'll use roles generically for like kind of the workforce or the workspace will become like heavily augmented by AI, meaning AI will become like a part of them. Ideally, AI will mostly be consuming the like monotonous and repetitive things that we do, right? So that similar things that you could have probably handled with automation. But I think AI is just taking the things that could have been done with automation and like supercharging them
Yeah.
to where it makes it to where hopefully a lot of us will get to focus on a lot of the higher value portions of our job and less of the monotonous things. An example, think about like customer service. Maybe instead of having to take like 100 calls a day to answer like very simple questions that could otherwise be answered with some kind of automation, maybe instead we'll only have 10 calls a day, but they'll be much more complex where we have to go deeper with the people and it requires more of like that personal touch, which, it's not going to like necessarily eliminate those customer service people, but it's now going to shift the fact that instead of having just answer the same questions, very easy ones all day, they're going to be going possibly like a lot deeper. Similar to this, I think they'll become a higher premium or value on personal interaction. I think there'll be a big shift in desire coming soon and in future generations for very like personal interactions. For example, one thing that took me by surprise, but it kind of makes sense to the same point that I'm making here is that in person board games have become something that's growing in popularity, especially post pandemic.
Mm.
Even younger generations are valuing like face to face connection. And there's kind of this like backlash against digital fatigue in a culture that's like shifting toward like slower communal activities. And I think like if this truly, it would be a lot more of a concern to me if that wasn't happening, right? If everybody just leaves all of that community and that stuff behind to just like dive headlong like into this technology and into this AI thing that like further drives us apart, like that would have definitely been more concerning to me than seeing some of these trends, especially amongst our youth. So I guess lastly, like on the question that you asked, and I know it's a lot, and I'm sure you guys probably have a lot of questions here, but the last kind of point I would put on this is that if I had to take like what the major things to think about going forward or the impacts would be when it comes to, is this replacing or amplification? I break it down in two parts, right? One is what's called adaptive flexibility. So it's going to be that we're going to have to be flexible to adapt into the future, to learn new things, to maybe get outside of our comfort zone. Our role that we currently know and do today may change in some way. And then secondly, we're probably going to be a somewhat of a shift from what they call to like operator to orchestrator. So there'll be less of us maybe just transactionally getting information, like sending and receiving information, and more of us organizing things to accomplish things. So think like almost less of a data worker and more of like a manager of things to accomplish stuff. So that and
Manager of
that's
machines.
ideally not machines, but that could be an element of it. And that's not and again, this is not going to be every role. Like a lot of things saying are through the lens of like knowledge workers and other people. There's different things to think about for like trades and people that do stuff physically, like plumbers, electricians, and those types of roles. So I'll pause there though because I know that's a lot.
Sandra, what are your initial thoughts on all of that?
Oh, you know how much I love hearing Adam speak because all of the clutter in my brain and things about or the misconceptions and the myths and breaking it down into those analogies and how it can really just be an enhancer to work. I could see, some people, including myself, saying, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And I think that, there's just when right when you're on the cusp of a major shift, which is what we're going through with AI, your brain goes to all the science fiction movies and all the things, right? Like you don't know what it's gonna look like. So of course, there's that tendency to have that initial like pushback, not realizing that it could be such a helpful tool in all aspects of life. So yes, so I appreciate your breakdown, Adam, of what it could mean for us.
Yeah, be careful when our brains have that like pushback mechanism. I've had that same situation numerous times through my life where like a new technology came out and I was like, oh, I'll never use that. That's for like the young whippersnappers in a sense.
Yes.
But
Yes.
like the second you say that, you've immediately somewhat become more obsolete because you're not embracing the new and not embracing the change. Even if it's not something that you're going to use every day, so you definitely shouldn't be like a bandwagoner that just jumps on everything. At least have enough knowledge to understand what it is, how it's used, try it a tiny bit, and then fine, you can never touch it again if you really don't want to. But just be open to the awareness of things because I think that's an important, key.
That kind of is one of the touch points that we talked about in one of our other career shift episodes was, when we did the career confessions and someone was saying like, I don't want to work with Gen Z or the younger generation. And I was saying, well, that instantly closes you off to connecting and learning things. And there can be wisdom shared from multiple generations. The second you say, I don't want to work with them because of their age, like, there you
Mhm.
go. It's the
Mhm.
same thing. You close yourself off to growing and evolving.
Yes.
And they could be the very things that become like extremely relevant in your life, right? Like the new technology or those generations could open you up to something that you didn't even know was aware of and it caused you to thrive.
Yeah.
So just be open, I guess.
Well, let's start with middle schoolers, right? And the education shift because AI as a tool for learning could be amazing, but there's a lot of people and students that try to use it just in replacement for thinking, right? And I think that a lot of people are not really taught yet how to harness this to help them learn more efficiently and deeper on certain subjects. So, what are your thoughts about, what education is going to look like in the next 5 years? Because, I mean, is there anything maybe that they need to understand about AI right now before it's even normalized?
Yeah, I think the moment that we're in right now, and it'd be funny to like listen back to this in a few years from now.
Mm,
But the moment we're in right now is that AI has like somewhat of a negative stigma toward education because I think it is looked at as like a challenge or a cheat to education.
mm.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunately like the wrong perspective. AI is here. It is going to be a relevant force in the future, just like the calculator was, right, to education. And I think if that's something that you're experiencing through your school or the people around you where they're discouraging you from understanding it or using it, I think it's because probably their perspective is they don't want it to become kind of like a crutch, which I'll mention a little bit on that later. But in the short term, make sure to learn to use it as much as possible in your everyday life. Get familiar with it. You don't necessarily have to become an expert in it, but it will be an assumed skill in the future. Just like using a computer or in some cases a spreadsheet, like when you're being hired, like it will not be like an optional thing. Like it'll be assumed that you know how to use it at some point. And if you don't, then it'll be just you lacking having that skill that's needed to necessarily maybe be hired for that role.
Mm.
And that assumed skill will be no different than like, using the telephone or using the internet. It's things we take for granted today, right? It's kind of commodity skills. I remember a time when computers were still becoming mainstream. I know it seems crazy. And it was considered a skill to know how to use a computer, right?
Mhm.
But now if you were to go work anywhere that like, and you they're they're not asking you like, are you gonna know how to operate the computer at the front desk? Like, should know how to do that. They may teach you the software and some of the nuance, but they know that. Kids and younger generations have a benefit of like growing up with technology. I know some people see it as a detriment, but it can go both ways. They grow up with technology and are so familiar with it that in a lot of cases, I hear people, grandparents and parents, having their grandkids teach them how to do things,
Hmm.
right? Like they taught me, I was just watching a video that Jen sent me the other day about this older gentleman that started a YouTube channel and his like 18-year-old daughter helped him set it up. And now it's like kind of like his business. Like it's something that he has a passion for and enjoys. I also remember like when our daughter was young, like she was interacting with a tablet with like a touch screen, and when she got on a computer for the first time, it didn't even make sense to her to use a mouse
Mm.
because that technology was so foreign to her. So just think about like projecting that out into the future. Imagine what like it could be with AI in the future being like children's normal thing. Like
Hmm.
we used to have to go to libraries or get into encyclopedias or what now will be somewhat obsolete, like searching the internet and sleuthing through tons of web pages. They can just get an answer like absolutely almost instantly, a very comprehensive answer.
Yeah, but think about this. They don't know what they don't know. And so, like, where is that critical thinking being taught so that they know how to dig deep and think to know what to ask AI
Yep.
or to prompt? Because that's kind of almost been eliminated from schools in general to teach people how to think critically and to learn how to learn and to discover. And like, I don't see that in schools now. How is that going to be incorporated into AI as well?
And I don't know that schools ever really taught that well, but and I think that's going to be one of the key skills going into the future is curiosity and
Mm.
deep thinking. Like you have to have both of those. And if you have either of those, AI can be a supercharger to those things because you can sit there and have conversations with even like using the voice mode in these things or in just text if you want to type it in on any subject. And it's virtually like having a PhD in that subject sitting there with you, being able to answer your questions, no matter how challenging they are. And I do this in the car sometimes when I'm driving, if I'm not in the car with anybody else, of course, and I have something that I'm trying to ponder, I'll bring up the voice mode on the AI and I can, hey, I'm thinking about this type of investing strategy. Can you tell me some stuff about that? And then I'll challenge it on things. Well, like, why would that work? Or does it make more or less sense if you have more or less money to do it? Like, what are the risks? Like, it would be like sitting, like in that particular example, sitting down with like a financial expert and being able to ask them any question you want. So with these things, having that one willingness to go just try it, right? Anything that you're curious about in your life, even if you already know the answer, ask it as a second opinion. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this and I am thinking about using that as a solution. Is it a good idea? What are some alternatives? And see what it has to say. Because I think it will broaden our horizons really greatly there. But to your point, Jen, like we have to use it to help us learn, not necessarily to give us all the answers.
Hmm.
So I said, think of it as an expert teacher, tutor, but it can't be the end all be all. And I think the analogy that I use for that, if it does your thinking for you, is if it does all your thinking for you, it will become like a detriment. That would be like going to the gym and having somebody physically doing your workout for you.
Hmm.
Like, are you going to get stronger? Of course not. Like, if they're doing your workout for you, no, you're not. And that's like AI, right? If you just give it a question and assume and take all of its input, yeah, it could totally do all your work for you and give you all the answers. but you won't know those things on your own in certain situations when the time comes that you're going to need to know those things. So I'll
Mm.
pause there. I know it's kind of a lot
Yeah,
on that answer.
curiosity is definitely going to be the key commodity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a question. I know that, we're at the beginning stages of AI and, and I know it's something that people are slowly adopting. And there are times that I've used AI and um anything from like spelling is incorrect or information is not maybe 100% what I could find.
Mhm.
So how much of that should we take into account when we're using AI? Because you talked about
Hmm.
AI not thinking for you and all of that, but are we at a space that we can trust everything that's being shared with us
Mm.
on AI? So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I feel like any one of these topics I could talk an hour about, but so we should not trust AI at like just at its stake. I feel like you should always trust but verify. The way AI works, like technically, is that it is probabilistic. It works on probabilities. It
Mhm,
takes the words that you've put in and it effectively guesses the most likely next word.
mhm,
As a byproduct of that, we often get really good answers, like the highest likelihood thing. But on the detriment side, we also get scenarios where AI is confidently wrong. And the analogy or the example I like to use for this is like remember back in school, maybe elementary school, where there was that kid in class that raised their hand and was like always super confident about like answering the answer, and they were so confident that like you find kind of felt like that's probably the right answer because they were so confident, but they were often not correct at all. That's
Yes.
kind of like AI. Like it very confidently gives you an answer that is so good with the explanation and everything that you're kind of like, man, is that the right answer?
Right.
that's what Ashton
But
says about me. I'm confidently wrong in my answer.
but there's ways around that. Like for one, yeah, like trust but verify, right? Double check these things before, especially before you use them in your career or you use them to make a very important decision. But these things are also largely dependent upon the context you give it. It's like a
Mhm,
genie, right? Bad question, like bad answer. You kind of get output based on what you put in. So kind of garbage in, garbage out. So the more context you give it, like of the scenario, the better. So, if you just ask it, a simple question like, what's the best way to save money? Like it might tell you, like, well, turn off all the electricity in your house.
Yeah.
That's a great way to save money. That might be a terrible idea if it's -10 outside and you got to stay warm to survive,
mhm,
right? So, like saying, like, hey, I live whatever single family home with my family. It's currently in the middle of winter. Like, here's our budget. Here's who's working, here's who's not. Here's some of the things that we currently try and don't do. We're looking for ways to maybe cut on our budget a little bit. Like, at that point, it has a lot more of the story of like what's going on. So, it could probably give you a much better answer. So, context is one of the kind of key ways around that. Also, challenge it. Like, I know sometimes it sounds ridiculous, but you could say, like, are you sure? Because I thought, and tell it what you think, right? What you're concerned about. And I've had it come back many a times and be like, oh, actually, you're right.
mhm.
Here's what that really is. So sometimes just, if you feel that in your gut, that like, sounds a little off, challenge the AI and tell it why you think it might be off. And then that will be basically additional context that it can use to help you answer things better. So that's a couple of the different ways you can kind of approach that.
I was gonna say, I think too, AI is better at sourcing, like linking the sources of where they're getting this information
Yeah.
from. But if it doesn't, you can ask, say, can you
Yes.
provide me some resources to verify this information or to further my deep dive on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice, especially if there's like a key fact in there. You
Hmm.
can ask it like, "Hey, can you provide me a link to the source that had that fact?"
Yeah.
And that might help point you in another direction to be able to go dig into that a little deeper to see if it is indeed backed in something real or not.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Well,
if that answered some of your question there, Sandra.
No, that was great. Thank you.
before we move out of the middle school topic, if parents or educators are listening, what is one way that you can encourage a healthy AI use without banning it or like over controlling it?
Well, first of all, I guess one thing I didn't get to touch on with AI and kind of the tutor element is AI has really been creating an emphasis on like learning modes.
Mm,
So even recently, I think it was one of the AIs, Gemini announced a partnership with SAT and the Princeton Review to where kids can go there and take like simulated SAT practice tests with the AI,
Mhm.
okay.
where it'll give you the questions, you select an answer, it provides the explanations. So way more interactive than you would get just going through like a question and answer book and seeing what you got right and wrong, because you can immediately like get explanations of what was right and what was wrong. Also, there's previously announced abilities to like use them for language learning, so it could kind of walk you through the
Mhm.
process of learning different languages. And even in ChatGPT, they have a study mode where, again, instead of just giving you straight answers, it acts as a teacher of the thing that you're trying to learn instead, and will teach you and give you like quizzes on different things. So I think it's important to know that these tools can be used in those constructive ways. But circling back, I guess, Jen, can you maybe
Wait,
repeat the
hold on
question
one
that you were
second. I
asking?
want
'Cause
to I want to talk about the teacher mode, right? Of it quizzing you. This is another
yes,
thing that even
yep,
Ashton was talking about, but when you set up your chat, you can set it of like the tone and how you want it to speak to you in a sense. And so if you're like a total valley girl, like, hey, like, blah, 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 and you want to talk about nail polish and getting your hair done, but then you want to learn something and you want it to speak to you in communication style that you're familiar with, for that dramatic example, then maybe you're learning, but it's going to put all these analogies and things that you're familiar with, like getting your hair done and your nails and all this other stuff, but it might be teaching you about private equities and how that works, but it's translating it into a speak that you can understand. So even if you're taking your SATs or studying for a real estate exam or anything, you can still kind of customize it to where it's really speaking your personal language.
yeah, it can. And what Jen's talking about there, you can ask it for things like helping you visualize things, or you can tell it to explain it in more basic terms. Like
Mhm.
the kind of a terminology you'll see online was like, explain it like I'm five or something along those lines. Like basically tell it to me in simpler terms. Or you can ask it to explain a topic through something that you do understand very well. Say for like a child maybe understands like video games or something like that. Like,
Mhm.
can you explain that complex terminology through the example of like video games? Give me a video game analogy. And it could take any topic like that and usually relate it in such a powerful way that it's pretty cool. It will help you learn faster in
Mhm.
a way that makes sense. And I think using it in general to accelerate learning is the kind of the key here, right? We don't want to get in the mode of like just, giving a question, getting an answer. Like instead of giving it the whole question, you can give it the question and then just say, hey, can you help me understand what maybe the first step is? Don't give me like the whole, breakdown of everything and the answer. What's the first step that I should take? And maybe that will unblock you. Or you can say, hey, I've gotten this far, but I'm kind of stuck here. What should I do next?
Mhm.
And why? And then it can help again just coach you through that next like little bit to get you moving and unblocked and to learn, which would be no different than if you were in class with a teacher and you were stuck on a step. Hey, teacher, I'm stuck on this one part. What do I do next? That could help nudge you along. Also, thinking about having it help you with the small parts of things. So here's kind of another example, but maybe you were writing a fictional story about, an apple, like apples, like a orchard or something, and you'd like the main character to have some kind of unique name related to apples. Like for us as humans, that might be kind of hard to think about like some creative name, but AI shines at that.
Yeah.
Like you could put a prompt into AI and say, hey, I need some characters for my stories that have names related to, apples. And I did that just for fun and got like Rosie McIntosh or Corey Crisp. Like you'd get these fun outputs that aren't replacing your whole story,
Mhm.
but now you've got these fun character names that you can use in your story where AI did help, but you can still kind of own the story part yourself. So there's just some ways to use it there.
Well, you've provided a lot of great approaches to using AI, but say you're a parent or an educator of some type and you're not doing this yourself yet, but your children are already exposed to it and dabbling in it. How can they encourage healthy AI use without freaking out and banning it and over controlling it altogether.
So I think you touched on an important point there, right? If you don't understand it or use it, how can you guide your children or the people around you on it? So the first step in that journey is to start using it yourself. I guess I kind of liken this to the experience of when like a new technology comes out. And, like I mentioned earlier, you just write it off as a fad or something of like young people. It's important to like embrace these things and think about and encourage these things. And if you have the means, get a subscription to these services that, ones that your child might want to use so that they can use it more fully to its greatest ability. Because embracing the unknown, thinking about these places in your life where you can start using these things is going to be very critical for having it be a healthy use rather than them using it and figuring it out on their own, right? And that's using it and having it figure it out on their own is just like sending your child like out to learn something new and just saying, "Hey, figure it out." Right? Like that your guidance as a parent or an educator is going to be critical and your ability to guide is the most, is going to be through what you know.
Mm.
There's a thing that I learned about while kind of diving deeper into this called the glass box protocol. I'd never heard of this before, but I think it actually is another tool that can be used here that's pretty valuable. And it's your student, child, whatever, should be willing to show you the chat, at least, that they used in AI with respect to what they used for the assignment or that what it is that they were working on. This is not like a big brother type scenario, but if you're willing to work on things in that collaborative way, you'll be able to see to what extent, like, are we using this to replace our thinking or are we using this to like assist? And it would be pretty obvious, right? If when you ask them a question about certain topics without access to AI, they aren't going to be able to answer it,
Sure.
right? Like that's a recalibration opportunity. Like if all their assignments are coming in and they're 100% right and they're like stellarly written and they're all perfect, but then like in a one-on-one or whatever in a check-in with that student, I think in our daughter's life they do DBAs where it's just kind of a one-on-one with the teacher where they ask them things. If you can't answer it then, like that's a warning sign that
Mhm.
your student or child may be leaning too hard on these things and not
Hmm.
using their own knowledge. And that's a chance to kind of recalibrate. So from there, you would want to take these things and try to lean in a little bit more on how we can use them in a healthy way, right? Like the gym analogy I gave earlier. If we go to the gym and have somebody else doing the workout for us, we're just not going to become stronger. So I'll pause there for a little bit because I know I could kind of ramble on this one too.
Sandra, you're in early childhood development. Do you see in any way, shape, or form how this um, might affect even an industry like yours? Because it's earlier than middle school. Maybe
Sure.
either the
Mhm.
staff or the families. Like, what do you think that like look like?
Yeah. Well, I think it would definitely help with, the creativity aspect with teachers and lesson plans
Mm,
because you have a lesson plan and there's an objective to it. But with youngsters, with preschoolers, with toddlers, they can go in like 10 other different directions. They may,
sure.
you may have a story about apples and they want to talk about now peaches or how are the apples coming up and things like that. Having the ability to truly expand and get further creativity within their lesson plans, I think and do it relatively quickly. You don't have to
Mm,
go home and think about it
true.
and, like, create all the things, right? You can use AI and say, "Okay, my students were really excited about the ladybug that was in the story of this story, and let's see how we can expand on that. What kinds of activities can I put together there?" I can see it definitely being a really helpful source for teachers when they're in early childhood specifically about kind of expanding the lesson plan. And I think as well, there are times where there are circumstances where we want to connect with families and there may be a disconnect there,
Huh.
or you want to share information with families and there's, maybe a different approach to it. So plugging that into AI and saying, I have this situation and, how can I help this particular parent or family dynamic to as a tool to help because there are certain things that I can think of, but then AI can expand that. So
Yeah,
I think in early childhood, it does have some, it has those benefits to help enhance what the teachers are doing and the connections that they have with their families.
I love it. Oh my
Yeah, that
god, it makes
reminds
me wanna be
me
a preschool teacher again.
Yeah.
yeah, it reminds me of something that one of my peers did, and mind you, we're dealing with pretty sophisticated people and complex topics, but he would take some of those topics and have AI help him make, like, a scavenger hunt out of it, or
Mm,
something to help, like,
Yeah.
kinda gamify or make learning, whatever that thing is, fun.
Mhm.
Or even at the younger, like, child level, like, you could ask AI to help you turn something into a song or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Like, these
me and
that one's
Sandra
I'm
don't
sure
need help
near
with that.
yeah, I'm sure that's near and dear to Jen's heart, but, like, that's the type of things that you can have it help you do, especially if that's not something that comes naturally to you,
Mhm.
to help facilitate learning for your students.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you. So, we've covered a little bit of that early education, middle school era. Let's talk about the blue collar careers. We've got mechanics, any types of trades, hands-on work, right? Electricians, things like that. Any type of diagnostic areas that people think, oh, like, all the diagnostics can be done with AI now, right? But the hands on work, they just can't do. So they almost feel untouchable. What does that look like, or what can we assume that AI will or won't affect with them?
So, it's my belief, I guess, that AI will affect everyone in some way, shape, or form,
Hmm.
like, kinda full stop. Even if you're, we're like a tribal person living in the jungle off grid, like AI still may help like companies detect new areas for mining or develop new water systems or things that could even impact those kind of people. So I think it's somewhat short sighted. And I would, have you be cautious if you believe that it will absolutely not impact you.
Hmm.
I do agree, though, that for blue collar work, it will likely, at least in the short term, impact you much less with the hands on work,
Okay.
but it will likely augment a lot of the not hands on work. So thinking about it as an example of like an AC tech, somebody that works on air conditioners or whatever, with AI, it might be able to better determine proactively when customers are likely to have an AC failure. And now all of a sudden schedule proactive maintenance. So yes, as an AC tech, your job may be no different. You're still going out and working on the AC. But now instead of maybe working on stuff reactively, the system is able to better identify proactive opportunities to where you're doing maintenance to keep people functioning rather than, just only fixing things that broke down. That said, there will be an element of this in the not so distant future where they're trying to incorporate AI into like more robotic type things. I think a lot of those, though, at least in the short term, will largely replace like repetitive tasks. So think things like in warehouses where you're lifting a box from one position to another or doing some kind of, or, in a production line or whatever, very repetitive movements that from a blue collar perspective would be prone to like overuse or injury. I think those types of things will be most likely to be automated or in some way, shape, or form replaced with like robotics or AI or heavy things, right? Things that are, maybe abnormally heavy. Like I think in the short term, a lot of that type of stuff will be most likely to be taken on. But in your individual trade, think about the ways that AI could help improve it, right? And it may be the tooling that you use or the software that you use to diagnose things. Maybe it becomes better because now AI is in there and it could be some obscure problem that you've never seen before. But when you tell it what you're working on and what you're seeing, it has the knowledge, and I'll just stay on the AC tech thing here for a second, of all AC repairs in the world.
Mm.
So even though you've never seen this particular unit and the problem that's going on with it, you mention it to it, it maybe has seen that and can say, that is usually this part. You should check to see if that needs to be fixed. So, if nothing else, it might be able to accelerate and point you in the right direction to where It makes your diagnostic process faster, the likelihood of the repair that you're doing being the correct repair.
I mean, you're answering some of my questions because I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, if someone's turning wrenches on a car, today, but what skills should they start thinking about building now just to even
Yep.
stay like relevant as AI integrates into their industry? Because what if they just enjoy doing the repair part, but you still have to shift up a gear in a sense to keep a job 5 years from
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, and auto mechanics or the automotive kind of repair industry is another great like example of a very important industry. And I think AI will definitely assist there, right? Because new vehicles are basically computers on wheels.
Mm.
And I think with AI, it's going to be able to better detect abnormalities in how the vehicle is functioning proactively. So maybe not once the part has failed, but when it's operating like out of some kind of predefined range of what's normal. And it might even be able to, and this is just me being speculative here, proactively schedule a service appointment for you to go in
Mm.
and have enough intelligence to know what your schedule is to when it could fit that in for you and see what's open at the dealerships or the service place you likes to go to's calendar to where it already schedules it for you. It might even be able to go a step further and know the part that's going to need to be replaced to where it can proactively notify the dealership to where if they don't have that part is ordered before you get there versus you having to manually schedule it, right? Showing up, they do the diagnosis, they figure out what it is, they maybe don't have the part. Now they have to order it, which your vehicle now has to stay there for longer. This all takes time, in that shop and in that bay. That technician that could be working on that now has to wait for that part to come in, or somebody has to go, and order that part. So basically, just think about in any process, what are all the like repetitive, annoying, slow steps that currently happen? And how could AI or any kind of automation like improve that? And I think that's the trajectory we're going.
Well, we are, but for those people that are turning those wrenches, though, what skills that can they build personally so that AI
Yeah,
just doesn't, you know,
sure.
take over all those things? Because yeah, there's a lot of great ways we can sit here and list that AI can improve the, maintenance and mechanics of things, but like we're still human and we still have
Mhm.
to develop something within ourselves to keep ourselves relevant so we're not completely replaced specifically in this blue collar industry. So I'm just thinking like if I'm a mechanic, is there something I can learn, read, a course I can take? What do I
Sure.
need for myself?
I think, using it for the industry that you're in is important. So kind of like the AC example I gave earlier, it also applies to automobile mechanics, right? If you're working on something that, to diagnose something or to repair something and you're unsure of, maybe you've never worked on that type of vehicle before or that year, or you're not 100% sure what the issue is, giving it to AI, the context of what you're trying to figure out and having it give you suggestions is an important first step. Like I do that all the time for things that I'm trying to work on to just get ideas of what I should be thinking about or trying to fix. Like that's a great place in anybody's life, no matter what it is that you do and no matter how good you are at doing it. Ask AI anyway and use it as your potentially expert assistant
Mm.
to help you do what you do faster or maybe avoid doing something that would have been a waste of time, right? Because
Well,
even though you think like this might be the right repair, it might not end up being that because of something that you overlooked. And
well,
having the humbleness to use that is important.
then you think about it though too, mechanics, I don't know if you know this. I mean, not everybody gets paid the same way, but they get paid billable hours. So, for example,
Yes.
if a car comes in and the shop quotes a customer 4 hours of labor to repair this, but the technician gets it done in an hour because they're a master tech and great at diagnostic and so on and so forth, even though it took them an hour to do it, they're still getting paid those 4 billable hours. So, if this can shortcut their diagnostic, then they can technically increase their pay.
Well, and think about all the annoying steps, like kind of continuing along that example. Even if it helped you shortcut the diagnostic, you may though then think, but God, I every time I have to, I don't know, replace that engine mount, it's super annoying and it's really complicated. And I feel like it takes longer than it should.
Mm.
Throw that kind of question into AI to see what it has to
Yeah.
say, right? Say, like, I hate having to constantly do X. give it all the context, right? Engine mount, this vehicle, this year, whatever. What is a way that I can improve it or make it easier on myself? And you might also find that it has suggestions of things that you weren't aware of to
Mhm.
make the process much easier or faster to where not only on the diagnostic side, but on the, in this case, the repair side, you're able to gain some improvement or efficiency or even just some like life or on your case, like maybe less stress on your body.
Mm.
So I think all of these can be really important benefits for using it. And it's and I don't think we touched on this earlier, but like using AI in the basic sense to just ask a question here and there, whether it be ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, any of those, is free.
Mhm.
Like the amount you have to, when you have to pay for it is usually if you use it frequently enough to where you're using too much in a day, then they'll want you to pay so that you can either get access to asking it more questions per day or getting access to a model that is more sophisticated and deeper thinking to where it can give you better answers. But for the average person just starting out, just go try one of these and use the free version for now just to see kind of what you're starting to get. And then as you get to the point where you're really using it frequently, then you could think about if it makes sense to pay whatever the
Mhm.
like ChatGPT now has like a ad supported one for $8, or they have the more full versions for like Gemini or ChatGPT, and other ones are like $20 a month. Like you could figure that out later.
Yeah, because I think it's like a max of like 20 questions in a day
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of thing, which I maxed out like as soon as I started using it. I've got a lot of questions
Yeah.
about life and I need you to answer everything.
But yeah, but start with one question a day, right? And like wait
Mhm,
till you get to the point of like hitting that limit, and then you can figure out if it makes sense to pay for it if you're not doing it already, right? Or
mm,
using it.
So, Adam, I don't know if you're going to touch on this, but I have people in my circle who haven't touched AI at all.
mm.
And you just mentioned things like Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT. There's different flavors of AI, it seems like, right? And for a newbie who may have never opened up an AI platform, any like anything like overall kind of overview or recommendations, or if something is better for one question or not? Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I'm sure Jen would have opinions on this too because she nicknames the ones that she works with, and she can feel the kind of personality of them. But generally speaking, if you're not using any, so as of like us talking right now, like the ones that are on the leaderboards as the top kind of 2 to 3 are Gemini, which is a Google product, ChatGPT, which is OpenAI's product, which I'm sure a lot of us have heard about, and then Anthropic's Claude products. Right now, Anthropic is very, very strong when it comes to like code and developing things and kind of like the software tech world. So if that's the things that you're doing more of,
Mhm,
like right now at least, that's probably the way you should lean. But for like general knowledge and questions and getting answers and stuff like that, right now, Gemini and ChatGPT.
mhm,
Again, a year from now or at the point when somebody else is listening to this, it's could completely change because new models come out all the time. This leaderboard shifts all around. And the ones that we're talking about could be completely irrelevant by the time you're listening to this. But that said, that's no reason to not just go try using one of these. And I would say use the one that is closest to the tools that you already use. So if you're a heavy, Gmail, Google Docs user, it would probably make the most sense to use like a Gemini or something that's already embedded into those things because that's the environment that you live in. Whereas if you've already maybe used ChatGPT a fair amount, or if you need the ability to connect into things like Canva or Photoshop or some of the integrations that ChatGPT has, then that might be a better tool as well.
mhm,
One of the neat things about these tools are neat, and I would say also it's concerning for some people, but it builds up context on you over time. So the more you interact with it, the more it understands you and the things that are important to you. So, and this is something that kind of freaked out our son a little bit one time, but he was asking a question about something with, I think, finance or investing. And it immediately started explaining the example to him through the analogy of cars and like automobile stuff, because that's also an interest of his. He didn't ask it to do that. It just knew from enough of his prior interactions that that would make sense to him. Similarly, I've asked questions about things and it knew the context of various health things that I've asked in the past. So it could include that in there. And that's actually like initially for the privacy minded of us, that's like, oh my God, this like thing knows everything about me. But then on the flip side, it's also a benefit that this thing knows everything about me because now when it's answering the question, it's answering it through the lens of having way more knowledge about me than just a one off, as some people call it, like the fishbowl mindset, where it just has very limited ability to know anything. So the more you are in one of these tools, the more it will improve really over time. For those of you worried about it, you can delete the history. Like there's a ability to make it forget.
I was going to say, for that privacy mindset, though, I had to really have a come to Jesus moment about this because you think, oh my God, I want to like be very vague with the prompts and the things that I'm putting in there because I don't want it to know, all of these details. But I'm also like, if you have a phone, if you have an Apple Watch, if you have a TV in your home, if you have
Computer.
smart
An
devices of
Alexa.
any kind,
Mm.
nothing is hidden. No matter what you want to say, no matter what you want to think, no matter what settings you think you have turned on or off, like I hate to break it to you, there's no privacy.
Mhm.
So you
Well,
might as well use it to your benefit.
yeah, and a way to kind of like skirt the line with that is to give it the knowledge that it needs to give you a good answer without the like PII or sensitive information,
Mhm.
because it doesn't know the difference if you're asking a health question about a friend
Mhm.
or you,
Mhm.
if you just give it, say, like some of the key data.
Yeah.
So that part can be like in a kind of a valuable way to like skirt the line of giving it enough information to give you the answer that's valuable without giving it so much that it would be a privacy thing. And if somebody looked in there, they would know like, oh, this was all your health data,
Right.
right?
Mhm. Well, let's flow into mid-career professionals that are feeling the squeeze right now. I think if anybody even gets a glimpse of the news anywhere, social media or wherever you get it, we all hear about these huge layoffs that are happening in really big companies, right? That employ a lot of people. And, these roles are getting refined, consolidated, or eliminated because of the AI just increasing the productivity. But for a mid career professional feeling the pressure, what's really happening?
Well, I guess first I would want to start out on this by saying that I think it's a very real observation. I think, yeah, you have absolutely like the intuition to be concerned about that. It's not invalid. I think entry level roles are getting slightly harder to come by because AI is doing a lot of entry level work,
Mm,
starting to.
mhm,
I think in the short term, companies are hesitant to hire entry level roles because they want to see if AI can do it for
mm,
them instead. Because in the long term, it's cheaper for them to pay AI or a technology to do these things than it is to pay a person. Some of those companies will be right. Some of those companies will definitely be wrong. And they may end up having to hire to make that up or spend even more on AI to kind of gamble further to see if they can get to that space. So this is all these things kind of happening at the same time in this like messy middle is making it harder to get kind of that initial like entry level job, especially. So I would say, I guess, for those that are already in roles, become more AI savvy,
Mhm.
learn to apply AI in your role, figure out what, AI your company allows you to use, take trainings, kind of become the AI guy or gal at your company. This will make you more valuable. This will make you more productive. I guess there's kind of a saying that like fits in here is that you don't have to be the fastest or the smartest. You just have to make sure you're not the slowest. And that comes, I think there's another funny analogy about that, like when you're running from like a lion or a bear or whatever. Again, you just don't have to be the fastest. You just better make sure you're not the slowest. But for those entering a career, make sure to gain both education and experience. Experience can be the hardest part, right? Like education, we can go to school, we can do trainings. But for experience, if need be, even while you're in school, volunteer, do an internship, anything you can to get experience, because not only will it help you learn faster, but it will make you more valuable to a company that potentially needs people. So I would focus on those things, especially if you're considering, if you're in that space of either kind of already employed or getting into the workforce, gain that experience, whether it be new through volunteer internship or in your current role, starting to learn the AI things. The other thing I would say, and this is kind of, I guess, tongue in cheek a little bit for companies out there that are preventing their employees from using AI, you're kind of fooling yourself and putting your company at a disadvantage if you're discouraging your employees from using AI. Because whether you think they are or not, they are,
Hmm.
whether it be on their personal computer or on their phone or through some other method. So instead of discouraging it, create sanctioned, approved ways and tools for them to use it in a, in a more controlled but better way in your environment. Like give them the tools to be successful. If you're in a company that completely prevents it, don't let that stop you from learning and using it on your own, like personal time, because it is going to be a valuable skill, whether your company thinks it currently is or isn't. It will be at some point, and it will impact probably the company you're working for directly or indirectly, whether or not they believe it will. So I guess another good place to pause for questions.
Well, is there any like targeted or specific trainings or learning paths that you would recommend for someone that, definitely is like, I need this stability and I want to be relevant in the future? Like, besides just using it and getting familiar with it or building experience, like, are there any particular trainings or learning paths?
Well, I'll give you, I guess, the four principles that I used for this. One of which you mentioned, which is use it for everything, test the boundaries, even use it for the ridiculous stuff that you don't think you should ask it. Like use it as much as possible. When available, always use the reasoning or the thinking modes. So by default, a lot of these models will give you like the fast answer mode.
Mm,
And that's fine for getting quick answers, but it's usually not the most thoughtful and more likely to, as Sandra asked earlier, with like hallucinations and things.
hmm,
Especially when you pay for the versions of these, you get access to like the pro or the thinking versions, which give you they're a little slower to give you answers, but they're usually much deeper and more detailed. Learn about like prompt engineering or prompting techniques. That's what we talked about, giving it more context, garbage in, garbage out. The better the question, the better the answer. And then there are absolutely structured courses on websites like Coursera or Udemy, or even some of the AI tools themselves like ChatGPT or Gemini, right? Like you can go in and ask them, like, hey, I want to start using AI more. What are some techniques or tools or things that I should do to be able to use it better? And
mm,
use it as your learning companion again, right? And it will walk you through those very things. So that's I guess kind of the three or four ways that I think about approaching this. But there is no like this one course will make you
sure.
prepared for all of it,
Good to know.
unfortunately, because it's changing so fast.
Yeah.
Michael and I have been going to our library and doing AI courses, and they do like
Cool.
different they're all the different flavors and showing just, and it's just to see just different perspectives and how people are teaching it as well. So that's been a resource for us in just our exploration of it as well. Just to add.
That's great. It says a lot about your library that they're
Yeah.
doing that, because that's, obviously kind of tip of the spear for a lot of these places.
Hmm.
And, you know, uh, the stuff that we do in AI is also not limited anymore to just text. Like the media of AI has expanded to where now you can do image editing, you can generate videos, there's people that are creating AI music. Like
Hmm.
it's very much not limited to just text. I think a fun way that we use AI that not a lot of people know is even possible or do is with the image editing. You can take pictures of things around your house, right? And say, hey, make this wall a different color, add cabinets here,
Hmm.
remove whatever. Like even if it's photos with people, like, hey, remove the extra people in the background. Like you can do things that would otherwise have been very complex to do in the past with AI now to make it very simple. You could do it in ways that are fun or funny as well. So like experiment with that, because AI has gotten a lot better. I think the days of like the people with six fingers and stuff like that are largely gone. Like a funny thing to look up online for those of you out there that want to search it up. But like a test that people used to do with AI video creation was Will Smith eating spaghetti. Because it was just, for one, it's a character with like a well-known recognition. But two, eating spaghetti is complicated from a physics perspective because all the noodles and the things. And the video of where we used to be in AI to where we are now is incredible in just like a year. It's night and day to where the point now it looks like it is like really him. Like I've seen a video of it recently of like making the spaghetti and eating it and all that. Whereas previously it looked like, it was like a gargoyle and like everything was like a wreck. It just, you could tell it was very obviously like created by something that wasn't very good.
Well,
So this stuff is changing fast.
for people that are visual beings like me, I think Sandra, is very visual. We hosted 2 different style vision book workshops, and for me, I was expressing that I like to, like, screenshot locations that I wanna go to for the year or people that I wanna connect with more in my life. Instead of using magazines, I use real photos of the things that I'm trying to target because it makes my manifestation path very clear. Well, I actually used AI for this same thing because there's some things that that I'm envisioning developing here on our property. And so I went around and I took pictures of the actual thing and I input into the prompt exactly what I want to see it envisioned and had it convert that. And then I print those out and I'm putting those in my vision book because the more you see it and the clearer you see it, the
Yeah.
faster and smoother that path is to get there. And so I've used it for my vision book as well for things like that.
Yeah, what better way to visualize something than to be able to actually see it,
Right.
especially for those that have trouble visualizing things, right? If you wanted to see yourself speaking confidently on a stage in front of a bunch of people
Do it.
and you can't visualize that, like give it a picture of you and say, "Hey, make me put me on a stage in front of a bunch of people speaking confidently." And that alone is like or meeting somebody important that you want to meet or whatever it may be, like it's a really powerful way to start kind of manifesting and visualizing these things coming to reality. Also, it can be kind of funny and tongue in cheek. Like, my daughter were playing tennis the other day, and I jokingly told her, I was like, "Did you know, like, I was, like, a really good tennis star? I'm not." And I went into Sora, one of the AI video generation things, and I said, "Hey, show me, like, playing, like, professional tennis and returning it, crowd in the background, all this stuff." And it made a video, and I showed it to her jokingly, and it still, like, had glitches to where it was bad enough to where, like, I think the tennis ball ends up, like, hitting me in the head or something in the video.
Which would
So
happen in real
she
life.
yeah, so she died laughing because it was so funny, but, like, it's just the silly ways that we can use these things to, like, you know, not only understand their capabilities of what they can kinda create along the lines of Jen's kinda visualization and some of these other elements. There are companies that also use this to generate actual videos that are used in business, like Netflix, some movies that are being created, certain scenes that otherwise would have been too expensive to film of like buildings coming down because of a bombing or something else. Like they can now do certain elements of the movie, maybe not the whole movie, but certain scenes with AI to help
Mhm.
augment some of these things. So the kind of the world of what's possible is definitely adapting here.
Well, I think though, seeing that and hearing that, I see how much social media in general was designed to bring people together, but also really just made everybody zombies and created distance. I see AI, yes, it's going to be a great tool in so many things, but I also feel like it's going to really actually, at our core, cause this desire for us to really want to connect in person because the human experience is going to be not as recognizable online and people want it, right? They feel it. They want to hug and they want to, cook together and they want to play board games and stuff like that. And even though AI can be used for a lot of great things, I think it's going to enhance our desire for community.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point. I think that's one of the, I guess, the skills that I think will matter more in the future is kind of EQ or like that personal, like emotional connection.
Yeah.
Because AI currently can't is not particularly great at determining if something is having like an off day or if they're hungry or sad or excited. Yes, there are some recent things that they're trying to do, be able to do like voice analysis and stuff to detect that, but there's still no replacement for having someone that's like physically sitting next to you, maybe when you're going through a hard time, even if they're not saying anything,
Mhm.
or someone that's in the audience clapping and jumping up and down during when you've been successful at something. Like that physical presence is just not replaced. Even though, like, yes, some people do use AI as like a therapist or as a friend or as a companion. To a small extent, like I think that's okay. But we still need that connection of the people around us because it's There's something intangible about it that is valuable. So I think that'll be one of those other elements that will be more important in the future is personal experiences, personal connections, community, all of those things.
Well, hopefully, those that are in that career industry that have been really successful but are starting to feel a little uncertain, that they'll take this information to help create a positive mind shift that they need to feel a little hope and guidance on which ways that they can navigate the upcoming changes for themselves. Independent business owners are a whole nother sector, right? And they're told all the time that they can leverage these AI tools to enhance their business and do these time saving activities. Like, what do you think about, like, from your perspective, what's actually true with AI for small business owners?
So for small business owners or people that are considering even opening a new business, it's going to greatly accelerate their ability to achieve the goals or set up the things that they want to set up compared to what was possible in the past. So previously for a company that was say just starting or even a small business or new business or independent business, any of the above, they all kind of fall into the same, I guess, category. The ability to get the answers or the knowledge needed to make business decisions or to make the right call was slow and somewhat difficult. Or even the ability to build things like a website, like took time, took a lot more money.
Mhm.
With now with AI, for one, you can get the answers much faster. For two, you can build things much quicker. I was helping a friend recently build a website, and I remember the days where like I had to truly like know the code to type
Mhm.
in things to build the site. Or at the very least, like you had to visually like drag and drop things as it improved. It made it kind of simpler. But now, like you truly can just give it just in natural language what you're looking for and what you want to change, and it will do all of it for you
Mhm.
very fast. What this will do, I think, is make the barrier to entry smaller.
Mhm.
So your ability to start a business will now become easier.
Uh-huh.
Your ability to improve the business that you're already in will also become easier and accelerated. So it, in a sense, as a rising tide raises all ships. It should be an element that improves everything for all of us. But on the cautionary side of that, I would say though that just remember your competitors have access to all of these same things. So for one, not using it absolutely puts you at a disadvantage. So make sure you're using it. And but for two, if you are using it, make sure to use it where you can to give your company an advantage. And that could be via coming up with various marketing things, new ways of opening up different segments to your business. Like brainstorm these types of ideas with the AI because it doesn't know everything about your business, your industry, your location, but give it as much of that knowledge as possible. Tell it where your struggles are, where your successes are, and use it as like a business coach.
Huh.
Like what things could I improve or what things should I change or focus more on or less on? And you'll find that those things can be hugely valuable. Instead of paying, tens of thousands of dollars for some, a consultant to come in and help your business, you've got like virtually the world's leading business consultant expert at your fingertips.
Mm. There's a lot there. I mean, there's so many different time saving things and content creation and systems and workflows and customer communication. But, you know, do they run the risk though of outsourcing their own thinking and creativity, or like how do they walk that fine line?
Yeah, I hope not. I always try to think of it through the lens of like, what are the monotonous, annoying, repetitive, ideally not customer facing as much as possible things that you can do. I try to minimize in my the way I look at it at least the stuff that impacts customers to or your interaction with people to be still personal. Even if you show up more prepared because of AI, like I don't necessarily think AI should always be doing the communication and stuff for you. Because there's something that just feels different about AI generated text from something that somebody personally typed.
Uh-huh.
And me and Jim were talking about that, even with respect to podcasts. Like people can generate AI generated podcasts, which have the look and feel of real people and the sound and the content. but it just doesn't feel the same.
Mhm.
Like even just having people stumble over their words or have to take a moment to think about something,
Or
it's
not know how to pronounce words.
it's authentic, and I think that that authentic is what's important, and it lands different, and it creates a stronger connection, and that's the same thing that's true in your business. Like, I think without doing that, you'll have a weaker connection with your customers, which then makes them also easier to go somewhere else,
Sure.
right? Like, the strength of your connection with your customers is also gonna be really valuable. So if you can put in tools, of course, to help them do what they need to do easier, great, right? Like maybe if it's a pain point for customers to call in and schedule appointment, right? Like if that takes a long time or you have so many calls coming in that it's like you're not able to get the right amount of staff to do it, then yeah, sure, maybe putting some of these things in place to help them do that as long as it's done in a good way might be fine. But I would try to tackle the back end things, right? Like maybe the people that are doing the scheduling, is there a tool that you can give them
Mm.
to find open slots and be able to schedule faster without having to input as much stuff in? Like look at solving that problem first rather than just outright replacing the people to people experience,
Mm.
because I think that's going to be the people experience is going to be the most valuable in the future.
Well, what about older professionals? Maybe they're not quite retired yet, right? But maybe we'll just say like it's right before retirement age, but they still have to make a living. They're trying to get out their last 5 or 10 years and they've built this career on all of, their training and things like that. And they have a little bit of tech, but what is the biggest misconception about like their ability to adapt?
I think the biggest misconception would be is that they can't adapt or they're not going to be tech savvy enough to understand how this stuff works.
Mm,
I think obviously older professionals got to where they were because of their grit and their work ethic, their intelligence, their relationships. There are a lot of things, and I think it's I don't think it's good to assume that they can't. That said, I think for those people in that position, also don't feel like you have to put the pressure on yourself to figure out that you have to be an expert in all of these things, right? Maybe you're in a position where you run a large company and have people that work for you, and you know that you should be including AI into your business. Find maybe the right people to include in your business that can help you start to include those kinds of things and institute that type of stuff into your company. You yourself don't necessarily have to do all things and know all things. You should still know a little bit about it. I don't think you should turn, the other cheek and just assume it, but being an advocate of it, supportive of it, and looking for people and ways to include it into your company are going to be very important to ensure that you continue to be successful without having to put the pressure of it being, all on your shoulders, I guess.
I was, trying to think like if there's any particular AI tools that would really make sense for like this group of career folks to learn. But I almost feel your recommendation of just using it on the daily basis for all the small things and being curious and stimulating more of that curiosity almost applies to every area. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I don't think there's anything that's like made for these, particular personas,
Hmm.
but I think that the questions you ask will matter. So think about the problems that somebody in this particular portion of their life may be thinking about, right? Like maybe they're nearing retirement. They might start thinking about retirement planning
Yeah.
and developing a legacy or handing off certain things that they're currently responsible for to somebody else. That's a great place to brainstorm these things with AI, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe you're as a professional that's not yet retired, you're really really good at something, but you know that if you were to leave that company, it's going to leave a big gap in knowledge because I don't know, the downstream people from you don't have that same knowledge. Ask that to AI, right? Say, hey, I'm a professional in this at this type of company. Like I'm going to be retiring in a couple of years, and I want to make sure that this company still is successful and that I'm able to transfer some of this knowledge. Help me create a plan for doing that. So, like, really, similarly with the retirement thing, right? Like, hey, I'm going to be retired soon. I've got whatever stress or anxiety about like how that's going to look once I'm retired and how I should handle and manage my income. use it at the very least as like the beginning stages of your financial advisor to help you figure out what you should start to be thinking about or maybe not thinking about.
Mhm.
And I think that's the ways where, like, yes, it isn't geared toward exactly that type of person, but with the right questions, it knows the answers in the context to be able to like give you very valuable advice on the topics that are important to you.
Mhm.
But it does require that enough self-reflection to be able to think about that stuff, right? If you're just blindly going into retirement, not even like thinking about that stuff, you're not going to be able to ask a great question about what like your true concerns are or what are the important things that you should be thinking about. But if you're doing enough, shift reflections or just personal reflection to be able to detect that, okay, like I'm feeling a little bit of worry of how I'm going to spend my days or whatever after I retire or some of those types of things. Like this is your brainstorming companion, right? Like tell it about the things that bring you joy and the things that don't, and have it give you some creative ideas of some ways that maybe you should spend some of that time. Like it can truly be your like biggest asset when it comes to figuring this stuff out. Obviously, your friends and your peers and everybody else are too, but they don't have the knowledge of the world at their fingertips. Like you're not the only person that's gone through these things, and the AI has the knowledge of thousands or millions of people that have been through the same thing and what's in the discussions in various forums and whatever, and the things that have worked for people, the things that haven't worked. So, your friends' opinions are super valuable, but the opinions of thousands of other people that have been through it or not, or experts that have advice on it and or not, is also important. So you should factor in both, right?
Absolutely. I've heard people, say that they were just embarrassed to even start trying to learn because, they feel antiquated or they don't want to learn any from scratch at this stage in life. But I also am like, you know, you were today years old at one time when you learned a lot of different things. So why would someone put the barrier up of saying, I'm no longer choosing to learn anything new in my life from this point on? It's like, so are you ready to die? Aren't we supposed to be here to learn? So I'm, sad for the people that I say they're embarrassed to learn or they don't want to learn anything, start from scratch, that mindset. But hopefully, your suggestions of just using it in small ways will help them overcome that because essentially it's private. You're on your phone, you're doing it so you can practice without being embarrassed of messing up by not asking the right prompts or not having the full depth of curiosity yet. No one else is going to see you if you fumble.
And I think it's also important, as a professional, an older professional, you have colleagues.
Mhm.
I took a survey once and I said, tell me how you use AI in your day to day. And I did that with my team just as a curiosity because, as Adam said, everyone's using it, right? So
Mhm.
I wanted to get like just feedback on it. And I even like flip the question and say, what recommendations would you give me
Mm.
to use AI as a leader? Like, is there things that you would like to see more of, or maybe I'm doing things in a specific way and maybe I need some more creativity in my thinking.
I
So
love that.
like the being open to it and then just being curious, so like having that curiosity with if you're a manager or you have colleagues or whatever, and just like ask the question, how are you using it? Do you use it at work? How has it help automate some of the things in your work or in your life? And just, coming in with that curiosity, it's like, oh, it is attainable, because I think people think it's this overwhelming, system, and they just don't know where to start, because I have people in my circle that are like that are just like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what platform to use. I don't know what to ask. So I think it's just, having that curiosity and being open to it.
And anything you'd put into a search engine,
Mhm.
try asking to AI.
Mm.
The difference though is that think of AI as like you're talking to a person that is an
Mhm.
expert in something. So with a search engine, it used to be that you would search for something, you would get results, and you'd had to look through them. With AI, you would type your question, you would likely get answers with explanations. But the difference is you can actually at that point then ask follow-up questions
Mhm.
You couldn't do that in a search engine, really. All you could do is refine your search and try to get better outputs. With AI, you can now ask all those clarification or follow up
Yeah.
things. So truly, just think of it like talking to a person that's really smart in the topic that you're asking or want to ask questions about.
Or even ask AI, "How do I use you?" Like,
Mhm.
what
Yeah,
types of questions can I
exactly.
ask just to see what comes up from there?
I'm happy because I feel like I've been trying to get the same results out of Google for the last 10 years. And it's like finally something's caught up with me because I'm like, I just have all these questions that I want to deep dive on and I want to ask, the expert advice from. And Google just made everything so complicated. So I love the speed at which I can learn. You know, people that are going in to retirement, maybe they're retired already, but a lot of people I see once they're retired, they want to do some type of part time work. And typically, they want to do something that they're passionate about at this point, where it's not something that they have to do to pay the bills. So they get to have a little bit more luxury and finding something, someone that is completely retired, they're doing this just for joy. What are some of the ways that they could use AI to help them even in a part-time joy job?
So I'll go kind of meta on this in a sense that like you could take that same question and ask AI that as a retired person, right? So you could say, hey, these are the types of topics or the types of things that I'm interested in. What are some groups or some activities or some part time jobs that I could do that would involve these skills or
Mm,
these interests? And it could help you hone in on those kinds of things. I think it also can be a great opportunity for exploring hobbies or interests or expertise at that stage.
mhm.
So if there's something that you've always wanted to learn more about, but maybe never had the time or the wherewithal to be able to go look and figure that out. Well, AI is now your expert companion that's there waiting to answer any question about any of those topics. And it may not ultimately be like the end of where your journey goes, but say you wanted to become a great gardener of certain things. So you start asking questions to learn about gardening and gardening in your specific area. And eventually you get to the point where like, okay, well, I feel comfortable. I'd like to get started. Like, let's plant my first plant. What kind of pot should I use? What kind of soil should I use for the type of plant that I would like to plant? How often should I water it? Like all these unique things. And eventually maybe you'll get to the point like, okay, well, are there any little like garden areas around me that I could go plant a slightly larger garden to learn? Or any um, gardening trainings at the library or through your local like extension. Basically, you take any topic and start to stretch it to to the extreme and as far or as not far as you want to go with that topic, of course. And it can be an accelerator in that sense where it would have been really hard to find those things using previous kind of search ways. Because even on those journeys, as you bump into problems, right? Like you can mention the problems that you're having and have it brainstorm potential solutions using the gardening example, right? Like, oh, I planted it and it's already starting to get brown and whatever. Like, what could possibly be going on? Like, just brainstorm the ideas and see what it might help suggest. And it'd be like talking to an expert gardener as well. Should be seeing a theme here, right? It is an expert at these things, all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go on and on about all the stories that AI has partnered with me and really helped change and benefit things in our lives. I personally love it. I don't fear it. I feel like it's going to, give us more opportunity to connect more and free us up. Some of the things that would take like, I don't know, 40 hours to do, I could do in 5 hours. And that frees us up in so many ways. And I've personally been using it to develop some systems and, you know, kind of solve some business problems and glitches, I should say, inefficiencies. And I see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm so grateful for it because the things that would have taken me a huge amount of time to develop, it's really shortcutting it and giving me back other areas of my life. So I'm super grateful.
With kind of one other thing there that it just reminded me of for you, I guess, and for others that because I think use cases are important with AI. Like, how can I use it for things?
Mm,
Is helping you with wording. Like it used to be that Jen would type things like responses or emails or whatever, and then she'd have me help proofread them.
This was decades
Or
ago, but let's say
yes,
that
this was a
part.
long time ago. Yeah, yeah. Let's clarify. That was long. This was a long time ago. But with AI now, like it can be your kind of editor as well. Like I can tell you how many times I just drop like a brain dump of stuff in there about whatever's like message it is that I want to send to somebody.
Mhm.
And I'll just tell it, make this sound better or make this professional. But that way I don't have to think about like all the perfect sentence structure and the like making it flow. I can give it all the raw ideas of what I'm trying to communicate and then just give it the instruction of like, I want this to be said in a more professional way
Mhm.
or in a more caring way.
Mhm.
Because it might be that, you're responding to somebody and you're extremely frustrated and you've got points that you want to get across. You know what? Let it rip in AI. Say the things like you would say it if there was no filter and you weren't afraid of hurting those person's feelings, but then give it the instruction because obviously you care probably about that person's feelings. Say, hey, take all these things and word it in such a way like to where it comes across as that I actually care and want to see this person get to where it is that they want to go. And it will help you finesse some of that stuff into a way that is better. Obviously, trust but verify, like we mentioned earlier, still read through it and make sure that it represents how you truly feel, right? You don't want to send something that's not you or not authentic. But boy, it can help save a lot of time that you would spend agonizing over like the best words or the best thing to say. And it could be really speed stuff up there.
Well, across, all of these age groups that we've discussed from like middle school all the way to retirement, I'm feeling like the common thread that determines whether someone thrives or struggles in the age of AI is, if they're, for one, using it or not, and how curious of a person they are. Do you feel like there's any others that I'm missing? Any common threads?
Yeah, use it curiously, be willing to be a deep thinker to
Mm.
go. I think the ages of deep thinking are at risk with all of the short form stuff,
Mhm.
whether it be videos, short form text, all of that. So the ability to read for long periods of time or listen to things for longer periods of time are at risk. And
Harlan,
that's an
yeah.
important developmental thing. So being willing to go slightly more deep. And then kind of that openness, which falls into the curiosity, but that openness to explore areas of your trade, your education, your anything is absolutely powerful and accelerated by including AI in the equation. May not be the end all be all, right? I don't think we're saying here that AI is the answer to everything. It's just a tool like many other tools. And when you have the right tool to add to what it is that you're doing, you can possibly make what you're doing easier, faster, better in some way, shape, or form, right? Like,
Mhm.
imagine trying to nail a bunch of nails into wood without a hammer, right? Like that's going to be pretty difficult,
I've
right?
tried
But if
that.
yeah, Jen will figure something out to use a hammer, so I believe in her. But
I might take off my shoe and use
yeah,
it, but I'm gonna figure it out. Well, it
right. But
sounds
that's the
like,
point, right?
though, with AI just accelerating everything externally, that it's really asking us to slow down and strengthen internally our thoughts and curiosity to be deeper and not that quick, superficial, just too speedy in the sense of thinking or not thinking enough. Any thoughts, Sandra?
I'm just thinking about some of the things that I'm going to do, just coming away from this conversation to really help about um, just help my to refine some of my skills and
Mhm.
also think about bringing it more to my work and leadership and also, like, what are some places that I haven't explored with AI?
Mm.
And, I've done some like fun things and, just, personal kind of things and what's the best curly hair thing and all the, those
Oh,
those kind of fun things. But just thinking about, some more areas that I just haven't explored it with, and also refining prompts and how important that is. So, looking and playing around with that. So just practicing with prompts. So if I use this prompt, what would come from there? But if I use this prompt, what would come from that? So just came away with a lot of just homework assignments that I'm going to work on to get myself more integrated with AI.
I love
I
it.
didn't clarify that earlier, but try asking different AIs the same question, especially
Oh,
if you're early in
mhm,
this journey,
mhm,
right? Like, because you can get answers from a lot of them for free. But like when you're early trying to figure out, like, okay, well, which one should I start using?
mhm,
Just try using a couple of them initially, give it the same question and see which answer that you kind of vibe with or like the most. And then maybe that'll help you decide which AI to gravitate more toward.
mhm.
So that can be a great way to kind of help distinguish which one is maybe a better fit for your liking. That said, I've done this, and a lot of them are great, and they give largely the same answer. Like I've done actual like technical tests with some of this where I take the same question and put it through multiple models, and it's pretty incredible how close the answers are, worded differently, of course, but
Mhm,
it's more or less the same
mhm.
same content. But either way, it's worth trying just to see if maybe in your particular case there's something that with the way it words it that makes more sense or that you like better.
Thank you so much, Adam, for providing us with some empowerment so that we can kind of calm that overwhelm a little bit with this AI kind of inviting itself into all of our lives, regardless if we asked for it or not. And I feel like you've really helped some of our listeners and us as well that might feel a little behind or uncertain or even just intimidated by AI, like with the small steps that you've provided that really is relevant to absolutely any age group, any stage of life. And so we're super grateful for your time and your knowledge and opinions of, bridging that gap between technology and just real life and what we're all going through. So, if anybody's listening today and someone in particular popped into your head while you're listening to this episode, that is your sign from the universe that you need to text them this episode right now. It doesn't have to come with a big long explanation. Just send it to them and say, I think you might like this, and let it be. But today we're here shifting our mindset, shifting up a gear in our abilities to become relevant in the next 5 years and beyond. So until next time, take care.
Hi, everyone. And that's it for today's shift. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. If you're loving the conversation, become a shifty. Like, follow, subscribe, and most of all, share this episode with someone who's shifting too, or someone who seriously needs to get their shift together.
Do you have thoughts, questions, topic requests, or maybe you're feeling the nudge to collaborate? Visit us at shiftsisterpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're so grateful for your presence, your friendship, and your willingness to do the work with us. Because shift happens and we're not meant to do it alone.
We'll meet you back here next time to breathe, reflect, and talk shift.